I'm Lynn Wilson. I'm Communications Strategist for Horizons Stewardship, and I'm here today with Cliff Christopher, founder of Horizons Stewardship, to talk about his book, God versus Money. Cliff, as we're having this conversation, and you're talking about right now one specific chapter in the book that you've titled The Art of Spiritual Combat.
Right.
Let's look at that third piece, and you've made the connection here for our viewers that this is akin to Art of War, this classic book,
Right.
and that there are some different components of what that means. And now we're here to this third component. And what is that third component of the art of spiritual combat?
Well, you're right there. I mean, there's just fundamentals and principles that I think all church leaders need to understand, and certainly the one who is the leader of the nonprofit itself, which is the church, and that would generally be the pastor. We talked about the first two, and the last really is, and particularly in the life of the church, we need to understand that people have a need to give. It is good for us to give. It builds us, feeds us spiritually when we give. Too often the emphasis is on the church's need to receive. Help us meet the budget. Help us get $30,000 extra dollars. Help us do such and such. We need to spend far more time trying to develop these people as spiritual beings and helping them know your soul needs to give. Your soul is at risk of an invasion of a virus called greed that can so easily take over us. And that greed can take over when you're just starting a career with hardly anything saved, and it can certainly take over for someone at the end of their prime earning years with millions in the bank. The greed is still there. It's the pull of our heart as to what we need to have in order to feel secure, to feel safe, to feel alive, to feel hopeful. And every day we hear this message that comes to us from radio and TV and our computers and mass media and Facebook and wherever else that is saying to us, it is in acquiring that you get there. It's in acquiring. And we've even bought in because any of us who live long, we're like, gosh, I've been acquiring for years and I haven't gotten there, to think, but you haven't acquired this. And if you just had this. We need to be talking about a totally different message, that it's in giving that we receive. It's not in receiving that we get. And that's a spiritual connection. That's where the focus needs to be. We're not in the money business. We are not in the money business. We're in the business to fulfill a mission of making disciples, of growing spiritual beings. Just like that mission we talked about at an earlier time, Lynn. When I was in the Army, the mission was not to make sure I had 3 great meals a day. The mission was not to make sure that, I was sleeping comfortably at night. The mission was defined for us as to what we were to do on the battlefield to remove Saddam Hussein from Kuwait. That's where the focus was. Our focus in our generosity and stewardship programs need to be on how do we develop spiritual beings and help them understand the real value to themselves in giving and not receiving.
What I'm hearing there, Cliff, as you describe this, is that there's a holistic understanding what it means to be a disciple, and part of that is to be a generous person.
That's right.
As opposed to a mindset that we can so easily fall into, which is that finance or generosity is there to support or to be underneath some other definition of what it means to be a disciple. You're
That's
saying,
right.
No, it is part of what it means to be a disciple. It's not just there in a kind of a support role, but it is fundamentally part of the life of following Jesus.
Absolutely it is, and I believe it is the arm of discipleship that's most under attack. But stewardship is a subset of discipleship. It's not an end in of itself. And, I give away, my money. That doesn't make me a disciple of Christ. There's so many other things. My prayer life, my study of Scripture, my worship life, all of these things we also need to be teaching. But I don't get attacked on TV constantly about missing worship. I don't have people trying to convince me that prayer is a bad thing. But when it comes to my giving, to my sense of stewardship, my need to live as one who is a trustee of God's world, that is under attack every minute of every day. And we, the church, and this is the whole core of this book, have got to design strategies to save our people and through them our churches from succumbing to that attack, that we can be victorious so that Christ can be victorious.
This is great. This is the heart of the book, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is exactly what the book's about. So if a pastor is a shepherd, then one of the greatest roles of the pastor as a shepherd is to protect the flock from the wolves. You're saying the wolves are the messages that we hear every hour of every day. And communication studies say those are 5,000 sometimes that we'll encounter in a single day.
Yeah.
Messages of acquisition, messages of greed, messages of materialism. And you're saying that's the battleground.
Yes.
Right there.
Absolutely, it's the battleground. And I think the only time mass media kind of communicates to us that giving's a good thing is when there's a disaster. And we've had a hurricane or something, a flood, a tornado, something has caused a mass disaster, and the word is, support the Red Cross, help in some sort of way, and we all listen to that, think, boy, that'd be a good thing, and I'm going to, do something about it. But that's great to do, but that misses the mark, and it goes away. As soon as I write that $10 check, $100 check, whatever it is, and send it to Red Cross, I check it off. I'm good to go. And then, I'm right back vulnerable once again to that message. Stewardship is a lifestyle. It's getting into a life that we live every minute of every day. We judge everything we do and what we see through that lens. And that has us more, I think, than anything else, living as beings like God created us to live, which is the secret to fulfillment and satisfaction.